Could this Boston Celtics team end up finishing as the number 1 seed in the East? Now, does it really matter who's the 1 seed, who's the 2 seed? No, not really. It depends on who you ask. Playoffs are all matchup based anyway. Sometimes teams luck out being the 2 seed or the 3 seed rather than a higher seed. And you see teams lose games on purpose for seeding matchups, right? So it really does not matter. It's mostly random and matchup based anyway. However, I do think this is one of the more unique situations I have ever seen in my 15 years of watching the NBA. Now, since the day I started watching the NBA, I have watched the Celtics. And going into this year, there's been some bad teams in the last 15 years. Von Wafer days, Jordan Crawford days. I've been through it. Brandon Bass days, Jared Sullinger, Kelly Olynyk. All the shitter teams way back in the day where Jeff Green was the best player. But there was just something about this roster that going into the year was comical to me. The fact that Keita was our starting center was laughable. The fact that Luka Garza was getting real run to start the year was comical. No Jordan Walsh minutes, no Hugo minutes. The bench was just god-awful. Baylor. There was guys that I felt like shouldn't even be on the court. But boy, was I wrong. I will say, I was very excited to see Jaylen Brown command his own team. And even early on with the Derek White struggles, Peyton Pritchard struggled to start the year a little bit. They have turned it up. They have turned, and shout out Keita. Shout out Keita, because was I wrong? Keita's Keita. You're going to get what you get. Lob threat guy, a little bit of a defensive anchor, big body down low, will grab a bunch of rebounds, do the dirty work. But his flaws, he's not a passing center like they're kind of used to with a Robert Williams or even a Kristaps Porzingis, who's a very willing passer. But now they have Vooch. So I think that this is one of the most unique seasons in all of NBA history. The Indiana Pacers were a team that literally just went to the NBA Finals. Their best player goes down, out for the year. Same situation with the Celtics. And you're telling me that one team is the worst team in the fucking league, damn near, and one is competing for a championship and arguably could be one of the best teams in the league to finish the year. And they're just getting that superstar best player back. They did all that shit without Jayson Tatum. And I've said this before, right? I'm not a huge Celtics guy because I got friends who are loyal to soil. The Celtics are their team. They can do no wrong. That's not me. Neutral NBA fan. But I always do have a soft spot for the Celtics. I can't lie. This might be one of my favorite Celtics teams ever. And I love those Paul Pierce, Rondo days. KG, Ray Allen, I was there. I'm a little bit of an unk status in the NBA world. I feel like it would be a disservice not to talk a little bit about Tatum's return game. Now, it was against the Mavs. It's not about that game in particular. However, some of the stuff I saw, scary times in the East, man. It's scary times in the East. So there's a recipe here. Think about Rob Williams. Rob Williams was in Defensive Player of the Year candidate talks for a while at his peak. They unlocked him as a lob threat. And it also unlocked Jayson Tatum as a passer. So then the next evolution to that, if Tatum can just get downhill and use his size and get into the paint, get paint touches, and throw that lob to a Robert Williams, but now it's going to be a Keita, right? And you saw it in the first game. You get some easy downhill situations, throw the lobs to Keita. Now that guy in the corner has to help off. He has to hedge a little bit. And then you're driving and you're looking immediately in that corner. And you got Sam Hauser in that corner now. You got Derek White in that corner. You got Peyton Pritchard in that corner. Vooch, when he's healthy, can knock that down. You got guy Jordan Walsh can hit a corner three. Baylor, you got guys over there on your wings that can really shoot the fucking ball. So I think that's the recipe there. Get downhill, throw lobs, open up the floor. I think spacing has always been the Celtics' strong suit. But let's get into the next couple days of this Celtics team because they could really turn some heads. So I want to take a look at their upcoming schedule because they got some games here that could be momentum builders. They actually end up having the fourth most difficult strength of schedule left in the NBA so far. So it's a tough, and they're 3.5 games back of the Pistons right now as of today. Could change with the Cleveland game coming up. But so like I mentioned, they're at Cleveland today. Huge momentum builder. Show the East, hey, y'all are easy. Then you're at San Antonio, which I think there's a lot of similarities here with the San Antonio Spurs and this Boston Celtics team a little bit. And going into the year, the Spurs were a team that everybody was like, okay, they're going to make the playoffs for sure. But how good can they really be? I don't think they're ready to compete. I don't think they're ready to really take that real next step to compete with an OKC or Denver or the Celtics or the Pitt, like whoever your teams were up there. They didn't think that they were that caliber. But early on in the season, the way that this team got as good as they are is their momentum building wins, their big time moments against the OKC Thunder, against the champs, winning games against them, giving all your young guys momentum and confidence to be like, we can do this shit. Like, we're here now. And I think that's the same thing going into the rest of the season for this Celtics team. Jaylen Brown's always big on momentum. Remember all his playoff series that he was like, the momentum's shifting. The momentum's shifting. I haven't really been tapped in with Jaylen Brown like that, but has he said momentum shifting? Because it might be. A lot of similarities there. And I think that's a huge game too because I think the Spurs are right there. I think the Nuggets are in that same group. They've been a little bit more off. And then they got the champs on Thursday. So Sunday, Cavs. Tuesday, Spurs. Thursday, OKC. Tough 3-game slate. Tough. But again, what an opportunity. Prime game, too. It's going to be phenomenal. They actually have OKC twice here. They got Minnesota. Golden State, who, not a fan. Charlotte's been playing some good ball. Atlanta. New York. And I guess Orlando. So, you got some big games here, big opportunity games. If you take care of business, of what you need to do, number 1 seed could be possible. Because this team right here, the Detroit Pistons, are skidding. 3-game skid. They just lost to the Nets last night. Bad loss. They were up by 20. They end up losing at San Antonio and Cleveland. So it's like, okay, that's fine. Those are tough games. However, they got the Heat, they got Nets again, Philly, Memphis. I think their strength of schedule is bottom of the league. I think they have a pretty relatively easy rest of the season. Yeah, they got OKC once. They got Minnesota a couple times. They got Lakers. No other real. They got Washington twice in a row. My thing about the Pistons, and maybe I'll just spark notes this because I do want to bring up more points in a later video, kind of gearing up towards the playoffs. My thing about the Pistons is their glaring issues are just so big to me. The lack of a secondary ball handler for a competing team is just, it's just glaring to me. The only way I feel like this Pistons team gets through the East is a defensive slaughterhouse. Like, they have to hold teams to like 100 points. And in today's NBA, I just don't know if that is a recipe to rely on for a 7-game series. So, and I saw some other guys who I follow in the podcast world, in the NBA world, kind of say the same thing, right? That lack, I'm very surprised that they didn't go and at least try to get somebody else, even off the buyout market. Like Tyus Jones out there, Lonzo Ball's out there. Granted, those guys aren't great anymore, but at least they give a little bit of what they are lacking. You know, they try to go get a shooter in Kevin Huerter, but like Kevin Huerter. Scary times in the East, man. Let me know what y'all think. They could go on a 3-game skid right now. They could lose all next 3 games that I just talked about, and I could be eating my words. But realistically, it doesn't matter.